Well, I want to thank everybody here in this room for actually asking me to come here today to speak to you all. I want to make sure that I thank the committee who put this on for reaching out. I want to make sure that the XO and the CO of this facility is definitely appreciated and thanked for even having us come over. Thank you. I was asked today to talk to you in regards to what this is today. This is the LGBT event that you have here on base. There have been several of them across the country lately, and this is yours. But yours is going to be a little bit special. I know what's coming. I know what you're going to hear today. But I wrote this speech the other day after pondering for several days as to what I was going to do to stand in front of you and tell you what I was going to tell you. As you were introduced, I spent 23 years in the Marine Corps. I enlisted back in early '77, and I retired in the year 2000. So I covered quite a bit of time serving in uniform, and I've had quite a bit of time now outside of uniform. Let's see, there's a couple of things that I could have said. I could have recited billeted historical markers in military history dealing with the LGBT community. But I decided I wasn't going to do that. I could have talked to you about the struggles with equality and diversity, since that's what this is about today, and how it dealt with the military establishment in the United States, but I decided not to do that either. I could have come down here today and I could have talked to you about the victories that have affirmed freedom and fairness, which is your theme this year. Come down from DOD and through the Department of Navy. But I decided to talk about what it was like and is like for me personally. 525,600 minutes is what is approximately in 1 year of your life. In each and one of you, over your lifetime, you will probably have lived about 45 million moments. Remember the word moment. Out of that 45 million moments in your life, there's many moments that you have. Not a whole lot, but many. That you will live for, you will die for, you will remember, you will cherish for your entire life. This moment, right here, right now, for me, is one of those moments. As a retired member of the United States Marine Corps and somebody that served just like you did, standing here in front of you at a LGBT event, speaking to you on behalf of the LGBT community and military community, this is a moment I never thought I'd ever see in my lifetime. So therefore, this is one of those moments. To be here standing in front of uniformed military members, I'm honored. Thank you. From as far back as I can remember, I was different. Certain things never made sense to me when I was growing up, but I didn't know anything else. I just knew who I was. But those differences were slight enough, and they didn't do anything, and I went ahead and grew up. I did my growing up. I heard the taunts, and I'm sure you've all heard them. I heard the derogatory comments, or being a fag, or being, this or that. It goes throughout your own civilian growing up, and I'm sure you probably heard it within the confines of the military as well. I mean, that happens. Unfortunately, it's not great, it's not cool. At any rate, I continued to move on there. I grew up doing things like flying with a Tonka truck, crashing them in the dirt outside, playing with little plastic army men and doing skirmishes and all that kind of good stuff. I mean, I did what every little kid does. I grew up knowing something different. Continued on with my life, and it was what it was. As I got towards high school, however, then I kind of figured out who I was and the fact that, yes, there was something definitely different about me. But I endured, I had to hide, I did whatever I did to survive. Several of my friends, upon graduation, were very interested in joining the military. I myself was headed towards college. I didn't want any part of the military. After being pastored by them, pastored for a couple months, they wanted to go to an air show at a Marine Corps base that was very close to me in Southern California. That base scared the hell out of me because growing up, I was always told, Marines eat little children and stuff. So at 8 years old, a Marine or a sailor or somebody in uniform is definitely scary to a small kid. So I relented finally and said, yeah, okay, I'll go. I did that. Upon doing that, we went to the air show. I saw the sailors, I saw the Marines, I saw everybody that was there, the entire military establishment. I saw the military might displayed there. I saw the pride of patriotism there, and I had always been a patriot growing up. Huge patriot. We finished there, something snapped upside the head. And I was in the recruiter's office that Monday morning, and the rest of the day say it's history. After signing up and doing my enlistment, I had to sacrifice something. And that's why I'm here today to talk to you. What I had to sacrifice was me. Back in those days, I had to hide. You had to hide. I knew that I had to do that because that was the only way I was going to be able to serve, and I wanted to serve. I wanted that uniform. There was a little box on the enlistment. Some of you may have been in long enough to see that. Some of you may not have been. On your enlistment documentation, there's a little box that said, "Are you a homosexual, yes or no?" I had to lie, which is one of the things I never want to do is lie. In the military, our leadership traits and things like that, talk about honesty, integrity. That was one of the things that just chewed me up. It buried me. Buried me for a long time. But I went ahead and did it anyway. As other friends in the military went off and they got married and they had their families and they lived their lives openly, I couldn't do that. I had to create a fake life, something that was completely not even real. Many times I was asked throughout my history in serving, why don't you have a girlfriend or why aren't you married? Well, that was, key words because people were looking. I wasn't doing things that everybody else was doing. But the military is a great place for the LGBT community to hide it because I could always tell everybody, I don't have time for a girlfriend because I'm deployed on a constant basis. I don't have any time for getting married and even meeting somebody because I'm constantly deployed or all my, wherever I was doing, TAD and everything else, I was constantly moving. So it was really easy to hide. No time to do that. Or we go out to a bar and we get drunk and do whatever, and it just didn't have any time, so it was easy to hide. And that's what I did for years. Years and years and years. But back in those days, that was the time that if you were even suspected of being gay or lesbian, transgendered, bisexual, whatever it is, NCIS would relentlessly hunt you down, follow you, investigate you, and you were thrown out if they could find anything on you. And there was no questions asked. It was a dishonorable discharge. Out the door you went. There was no recourse. So we all had to hide. That's the only way we could to continue on with the career, and I wanted to continue on with my career. I wanted to serve my country. So I marched on, lying every re-enlistment, having to check that little box and being reminded daily. In 1989, the tragedy of the USS Iowa. I don't know how many of you remember that. And that was when the turret blew up. Well, the Navy's initial response to that, the initial rush, was to blame a homosexual relationship and somebody attempting to bury that as the reason for that turret exploding and the lives of those sailors that were lost. That made me angry. And it really made me angry because one of those deceased sailors, one of your shipmates that's no longer here, I happened to babysit as a 10-year-old boy. He was 10-year-old. I knew the family. I grew up with them in Southern California. When I found out that he was one of the casualties aboard the USS Iowa, it just really tore me up, angered me. It wasn't fair. First, they blamed it on a homosexual relationship that was not true. Well, subsequently that investigation was found that none of it was true. None of it was true. It was just, that's the way we lived back in the 80s and beyond. The Navy determined that it was not, and it had nothing to do with homosexual activity. Nobody was gay. And they still, today, we really don't know the full reason for that explosion. But at any rate, I had to move on. I thought about leaving the military, but I decided not to. In his honor, there was no way I could just quit. I had to continue on. So I did. Desert Storm came. I went to Desert Storm. I did what I needed to do. I excelled in my job probably to my detriment in a lot of ways, but I won't get into that. Every fear, every elation, witness, experience, emotion is felt by each and every one of you, every sailor, every airman, every Marine, every soldier. It's all the same, whether you're gay or straight. Those emotions are all the same. And it was for me. However, upon being there or going there, all those emotions I couldn't share, there wasn't anybody to share it with, because had I done that, it would have exposed me for who I was. I had nobody to cry on. I had nobody to talk to about my fears other than my own immediate family, because of who I was. I continued on. And the reason that I couldn't do that is because USMC said I couldn't do it. Then came DADT. For some of you, especially the younger sailors here, airmen, the Marines, and soldiers and Coast Guardsmen. I don't know if we have any and all of those involved here in this room. I don't know. But DADT, which is Don't Ask, Don't Tell, was a political compromise. And I'm not going to get into that either. Not at this point, because it's gone. The issue that I experienced, and a lot of other members did experience during that period of time, was a part of DADT that was never mentioned, and that was don't pursue. And what I mean by don't pursue is it was not part of that order, it was not part of that law. However, the military did it with a vengeance at times. I remember going to places to gather with other LGBT people, the bars, parties, or whatever. Outside of Camp Lejeune, within a 30-mile radius of that base, NCIS would be constantly looking at those bars, parking lots, looking for DOD decals, because that's how they're going to hunt you down. That was the don't pursue part, which they were not allowed to do, but they did it until it got really bad, and then finally somebody quashed it down and said, hey, enough is enough. At any rate, living that way was really tough, not knowing whether or not somebody was going to tail you home, tail you to a friend's house, talk to your friends, talk to your coworkers. We had no idea. So living that way was kind of tough, and that's what it was for years and years and years. I didn't get to experience the lifting of DADT and being in uniform. My entire career was either no DADT or DADT. So you all are living in a really good time now. At any rate, my last 2 years were spent on active duty. And my entire command knew at that point in time, because during DADT, there was a period that I could actually talk to people in my command that I trusted. When I put in my retirement package, my CO pleaded with me not to leave because of the asset that I was to the Marine Corps. However, I needed to live my life. My troops all knew. Every single one of them did when I walked out the door. They all sat there and said, we've known for years. We've known for a long time. And it had no bearing on you. What you taught us, how you treated us, that's what we respect. It's not your sexuality, it's nothing. Which was a kind of a nice thing to feel. At that point in time, upon the end of my military service, is when my pride started to awaken. And my pride, whether it be gay pride, or whether it be military pride, Navy pride, it started to awaken. The pride in my Marines, the pride in my Marine Corps, the pride in my career, and importantly, the pride in myself. I could finally be me. I finally didn't have to hide anymore, which was a wonderful feeling. Contrary to popular belief, however, LGBT pride is not about sex, partying, outrageous apparel, or glitter. I'm sure you've all heard that too. It's about the collective pride in one's individual self, living as one truly is, without the shame, without the hiding, without the lying, and without the falsehoods. That's what pride really means, whether it be Navy pride or whether it be LGBT pride. Sharing that pride is something that we're doing today and something that I enjoy doing. I get to share my life's experience with other people, family, friends, coworkers, etc. Now you, and I can do it openly, and anybody in this room can do it openly on this base without any ramifications. It's a wonderful thing. We live in a different time. Part of my oath of enlistment and yours stated that I would swear to defend the Constitution and its defense from the threats, foreign and domestic. Well, we have domestic threats. I've done this with pride, both in uniform and out of uniform, and I'm doing it right now. I've been recently heavily involved, as you heard, in the application of the 14th Amendment from the state of Florida all the way up to the Supreme Court level. We just got back from D.C. not long ago. And specifically, I'm talking about the Equal Protection Clause. And that's for another day. But what I wanted to say, and kind of wrapping this up, is whether we are dark blue or green, light blue or green, I think you know what that means. And that transgresses the military, male, female, whether we're Baptist or atheist, gay, straight, anything in between, whether we're naturalized or natural-born citizens, we are all Americans first, all equal under the laws of this country. Thankfully, the U.S. military is now, with the ATD gone, and the fact that you can serve openly. I wanted to make sure you all knew that. There have been those like me serving amongst you and the people that have preceded you for as long as the U.S. Navy has been in existence. And it will continue that way. People like me have been serving alongside and with you for as long as the militaries have been in modern history. We've been throughout that experience. I've witnessed some spectacular moments in my lifetime as I finish. The end of the Vietnam War. The parades when we came home from Desert Storm, they were wonderful. The fall of DADT after 17 years. It's a long time. The U.S. Supreme Court hearings, the American system of government, the United States military and what it does, and life-affirming moments, many of them. One of them, as I said today. I stand here proudly, very proudly with each and every one of you on this air station, and hopefully about to witness another life-affirming moment in your lifetime and mine. We're waiting for that. When it comes, will finally be the moment that I, as well as the rest of the LGBT community, become just Americans under the law. And the point that I want to get across to, or the point I want to get across was, I become a Marine, not a gay Marine, but just a Marine like everybody else in the room. That's what this prize is about. So if you can remember anything I said today, have at it, and I salute you all for being here. Semper Fortis.